You're listening to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, created to help you succeed in your Security Plus certification journey. Learn more at baremetalcyber.com, where additional prepcasts, books, and training materials await. Let's get started. Zero-day vulnerabilities are flaws in software, hardware, or firmware that are unknown to the vendor or for which no official patch exists. The term zero-day reflects the fact that defenders have had 0 days to prepare once the vulnerability is discovered or exploited. These weaknesses are particularly concerning because attackers can take advantage of them before organizations even know they exist. Unlike known vulnerabilities, where patches or workarounds are available, 0 days leave systems exposed until a fix is developed and distributed. Understanding their nature underscores why proactive detection, layered defenses, and adaptive security strategies are essential in modern cybersecurity. Zero-day vulnerabilities are considered high risk because no official remediation is immediately available. Once attackers identify a flaw, they can exploit it freely until a patch is released and widely applied. This window of opportunity often gives adversaries significant advantages, especially against organizations that rely exclusively on vendor-provided updates. Attackers target 0 days because they bypass traditional defenses such as antivirus or intrusion prevention systems, which rely on known patterns. For defenders, the challenge is not only technical but strategic: how to secure environments against an unknown and unpatched risk. The absence of remediation amplifies the urgency and severity of zero-day threats. 0 days may be discovered in several ways. Security researchers often uncover them during audits, penetration testing, or independent investigation, sometimes reporting them responsibly through disclosure programs. Attackers may also discover them through reverse engineering, fuzz testing, or sheer trial and error, exploiting flaws for their own gain. In some cases, vulnerabilities surface via bug bounty initiatives designed to reward ethical reporting. The discovery process matters because it determines who learns about the flaw first: defenders who may seek a patch, or adversaries who may weaponize it. This dynamic makes early detection and responsible disclosure critical in mitigating risk. Exploit availability dramatically affects the urgency and impact of a zero-day vulnerability. A flaw may exist but remain low risk until an exploit is developed that reliably weaponizes it. Once exploits are available, especially if published publicly, the danger escalates, as attackers worldwide can adopt the technique. Exploits may be highly targeted, crafted for specific environments, or broadly applicable, enabling mass campaigns. The presence of a working exploit is what often transforms a theoretical weakness into an active crisis. For defenders, exploit availability becomes the tipping point, driving prioritization of mitigations, threat monitoring, and communication with vendors. The concept of a window of exposure is central to understanding zero-day vulnerabilities. This window begins when the vulnerability is discovered or disclosed and ends when effective remediation is applied. During this period, organizations remain at heightened risk, often relying on temporary mitigations or compensating controls. The length of the window depends on how quickly vendors release patches and how promptly organizations apply them. Attackers aim to exploit vulnerabilities during this window, racing against defenders. For security teams, the goal is to shrink this window as much as possible by adopting proactive measures and maintaining readiness for rapid response. It is important to distinguish between a vulnerability and an exploit. A vulnerability is the flaw itself, an error in design, coding, or configuration that introduces weakness. An exploit, on the other hand, is the method or tool that takes advantage of that weakness to achieve unauthorized action. Not every vulnerability has a known exploit, but once one is developed, risk increases exponentially. Understanding this distinction clarifies why defenders must monitor both vulnerability disclosures and exploit reports. A system with a vulnerability but no exploit poses latent risk, while the same system with an active exploit represents an urgent, actionable threat. Threat intelligence plays a vital role in identifying zero-day exploitation in the wild. Security vendors, government agencies, and information-sharing groups collect evidence of attacks and distribute alerts to defenders. These feeds may reveal indicators of compromise or suspicious behaviors linked to new exploitation attempts. Without intelligence, organizations may be blind to ongoing activity until damage has occurred. With it, defenders can apply temporary mitigations, tune detection systems, and focus monitoring on at-risk assets. Threat intelligence does not close the vulnerability itself, but provides early warning and context, narrowing the attacker's advantage during the zero-day window. Mitigations become critical when no vendor patch exists. These measures aim to reduce exposure or limit the impact of exploitation. Examples include disabling vulnerable services, applying stricter firewall rules, or altering configurations to block known attack paths. Compensating controls such as intrusion detection systems can also identify suspicious behaviors even without specific signatures. While mitigations rarely eliminate risk entirely, they buy time until permanent fixes are available. Defenders must balance usability with security, ensuring that business operations continue while reducing opportunities for attackers. The goal is not to achieve perfection but to minimize exposure during periods of uncertainty. Monitoring for indicators of compromise, IOCs, is another way to defend against zero days. Even if the exact exploit is unknown, attackers leave behind patterns, unusual network traffic, privilege escalation attempts, or modified system files. By focusing on behavior rather than signatures, defenders can detect exploitation attempts indirectly. This approach complements threat intelligence, turning raw data into actionable insights. Continuous monitoring ensures organizations do not rely solely on vendor updates but remain alert to suspicious activity. In a zero-day context, vigilance becomes the primary defense, as detection often precedes patching. Monitoring shifts the advantage back to defenders during vulnerable periods. Legal and ethical dimensions surround the purchase or disclosure of zero-day vulnerabilities. Some companies and governments buy zero-day information for use in offensive operations, creating debates about whether withholding flaws harms global security. Responsible disclosure advocates argue that vulnerabilities should be reported to vendors so they can be patched, reducing overall risk. Organizations must decide how they engage with zero-day markets, whether through bug bounties, threat intelligence subscriptions, or responsible disclosure programs. The choices made here affect not only technical defenses but also ethical positioning, shaping how organizations contribute to, or detract from, collective cybersecurity resilience. Layered defenses significantly reduce the effectiveness of zero-day attacks. Even if one control fails, others can prevent attackers from achieving full compromise. For example, an exploited application may still be contained by segmentation, while multi-factor authentication may prevent credential abuse. Endpoint detection and response tools can block malicious activity, even without knowing the exploit's specifics. This redundancy ensures attackers cannot rely on single points of failure. Layered defenses do not eliminate zero-day risks but make exploitation harder, noisier, and less rewarding. They embody the principle of defense in depth, where resilience is achieved through overlapping protections rather than reliance on a single safeguard. Zero-day vulnerabilities ultimately reinforce the importance of proactive detection and mitigation. Waiting for patches is insufficient, as attackers exploit windows of exposure aggressively. Organizations must prepare by adopting layered defenses, monitoring for anomalies, and implementing temporary mitigations. Threat intelligence, governance, and awareness all contribute to shrinking the advantage attackers hold during zero-day periods. While these threats are among the most challenging in cybersecurity, they are not insurmountable. By embracing proactive strategies, defenders transform uncertainty into manageable risk. Zero days remind us that security is not static, but a constant process of adaptation, vigilance, and layered defense. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Virtual patching and compensating controls provide interim defenses when a zero-day vulnerability cannot be immediately patched. Virtual patching involves deploying security measures at the network or application layer that block known exploit techniques, even if the underlying flaw remains. Intrusion prevention systems, web application firewalls, or endpoint rules can enforce these protections. Compensating controls may also include restricting access, disabling vulnerable features, or increasing monitoring. While these measures do not fix the flaw itself, they reduce opportunities for exploitation. The goal is to shrink the attack surface during the critical period before an official patch arrives, buying defenders valuable time. Isolation and segmentation further limit the reach of zero-day exploits. Even if an attacker successfully compromises one system, segmentation prevents lateral movement across the entire environment. For example, workloads can be separated into zones, with strict controls governing which systems communicate. Isolation also applies at the user level, where privileged accounts should not share networks with general-purpose systems. Segmentation ensures that exploitation of a single vulnerability does not escalate into full-scale compromise. By treating environments as compartmentalized rather than flat, organizations contain attacks and reduce the damage potential of zero days, aligning with the principle of least privilege. Behavior-based detection is particularly valuable against zero-day threats, since traditional signature-based tools cannot identify unknown exploits. Instead of searching for known attack code, behavior-based systems monitor for suspicious activity, such as unusual process execution, privilege escalation attempts, or anomalous network traffic. These anomalies often reveal exploitation even when the exploit itself is unfamiliar. Machine learning and heuristic tools extend this capability by identifying deviations from normal baselines. While behavior-based detection may generate false positives, it shifts the advantage by making attackers' actions visible. In the absence of signatures, observing behavior becomes the primary method of catching zero-day activity. Memory protection techniques like address space layout randomization (ASLR) and data execution prevention (DEP) mitigate exploit attempts at a low level. ASLR randomizes the memory addresses where code and data are loaded, making it difficult for attackers to predictably execute payloads. DEP prevents certain regions of memory from running code, blocking common buffer overflow techniques. Together, these mitigations raise the bar for exploit reliability, forcing attackers to develop more complex methods. While they do not eliminate zero-day risks, they make exploitation significantly harder and noisier. Memory protections demonstrate how architectural defenses can limit the effectiveness of vulnerabilities that have no immediate patch. Rapid incident response is critical when zero-day activity is suspected. Organizations must have playbooks in place to identify, contain, and remediate attacks quickly. This may involve isolating affected systems, blocking network connections, or revoking compromised accounts. Communication channels must be clear so that technical teams, leadership, and stakeholders receive timely updates. Containment is often the immediate goal, buying time to investigate and apply mitigations. Without rapid response, attackers can deepen their foothold and cause lasting damage. Preparedness ensures that zero-day incidents are treated with urgency and discipline, reducing the likelihood of catastrophic impact during windows of exposure. Coordinated disclosure between security researchers and vendors plays an essential role in reducing zero-day risk. Researchers who discover vulnerabilities are encouraged to report them responsibly, giving vendors time to develop patches before public disclosure. This cooperation reduces the opportunity for attackers to exploit flaws unchecked. Vendors, in turn, must respond quickly and transparently, acknowledging reports and committing to timelines for fixes. Coordinated disclosure balances transparency with protection, ensuring vulnerabilities are resolved without giving adversaries an unfair advantage. The process underscores the importance of trust and collaboration between researchers, vendors, and customers in maintaining global cybersecurity. Bug bounty programs and vulnerability disclosure frameworks extend coordinated disclosure by incentivizing responsible reporting. Organizations that offer rewards for discovered flaws attract skilled researchers who might otherwise sell their findings on gray markets. By creating official channels for reporting, companies reduce the likelihood that vulnerabilities remain hidden or exploited privately. Bug bounty programs shorten the lifespan of 0 days by bringing them into the open faster. They also foster a culture of collaboration, transforming external researchers into allies. For defenders, investing in disclosure programs creates an additional safety net, catching weaknesses before attackers have the chance to weaponize them. Prioritizing high-value assets for additional monitoring is another practical 0-day defense. Not all systems carry equal importance. Databases holding sensitive customer records or servers running critical operations require closer scrutiny. Organizations can implement enhanced logging, behavior analysis, and intrusion detection around these assets to detect early signs of exploitation. Even if a 0-day remains unpatched, the heightened visibility increases the chances of identifying compromise before damage spreads. This prioritization ensures limited resources are applied where they matter most. Protecting crown jewels first reflects a risk-based approach to defense, acknowledging that not every asset can receive equal attention. Threat hunting provides a proactive approach to detecting 0-day exploitation. Unlike automated detection systems that rely on predefined rules, threat hunting involves human analysts actively searching for anomalies and novel attack techniques. Hunters may analyze logs, investigate suspicious patterns, or simulate attacker behavior to uncover hidden activity. By operating on the assumption that systems may already be compromised, threat hunting shifts security from reactive to proactive. In the context of 0 days, this approach is especially valuable, as it seeks indicators that automated systems may miss. Regular hunting exercises keep defenders sharp and ensure unknown exploits are discovered sooner. Redundancy and rollback capabilities support recovery from successful 0-day exploitation. Backups, alternate systems, and failover processes allow organizations to restore operations quickly if critical systems are compromised. Rollback mechanisms ensure configurations or software can return to a known secure state after incidents. Without redundancy, 0-day attacks may result in prolonged downtime or data loss. With it, organizations can absorb the shock and continue functioning while remediation is underway. These practices are not glamorous, but form the backbone of resilience. They ensure that even when attackers gain a temporary advantage, the organization can recover without catastrophic consequences. Legal and regulatory reporting obligations must also be considered when 0-day exploitation impacts sensitive data. Many jurisdictions require organizations to disclose breaches within specified timeframes, especially when customer information is exposed. Failing to meet these obligations can result in fines, reputational harm, and loss of trust. Organizations must therefore integrate legal teams into 0-day response planning, ensuring compliance is maintained alongside technical remediation. Reporting also supports collective defense as regulators and industry groups can warn others of active threats. Compliance requirements highlight that 0-day defense is not just technical but also legal and organizational in scope. In summary, a 0-day strategy revolves around detection-first thinking, supported by compensating controls and rapid remediation. Virtual patching, segmentation, and memory protections reduce exploit success, while behavior-based detection and threat hunting expose attackers in action. Coordinated disclosure, bug bounty programs, and vendor cooperation shorten the lifespan of vulnerabilities, bringing fixes faster. Response plans, redundancy, and compliance ensure that when 0-day incidents occur, they are contained, remediated, and reported effectively. 0 days are unavoidable in complex systems, but their impact can be managed. Organizations that anticipate them, prepare layered defenses, and respond decisively transform uncertainty into resilience. Thanks for tuning in to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, your trusted source for cybersecurity news and insights. Remember to subscribe at baremetalcyber.com so you never miss an update. And visit cyberauthor.me for best-selling cybersecurity books that equip you with expert knowledge. Until next time, stay secure and stay vigilant.